Welcome back to the channel, guys. Well, today I have got something a little bit different. I know I quite often say that, but today we really are a little bit different. I did a review of the Norton Commando SP a couple of months ago. I thought, well, it doesn't really match my channel, but Norton contacted me and said, I want to try it. And I was like, yeah, I'll give it a go. Well, that video has actually done really, really well. So when BSA contacted me and said, do I want to try the new Gold Star? And I was like, you know what? It may not be my thing, but I quite fancy having something a little bit retro looking. And of course, BSA Motorcycles, is an absolutely iconic brand. I mean, yeah, they're not English owned anymore. I think they're owned by Merinda and produced and manufactured in India. But, so's Royal Enfield, so's a fair few other bikes these days, so we can't really hold it against it. I know they do want to bring manufacturing back to the UK on this machine at some point. But anyway, so today we're going to take this out for a little bit of a spin, take it around my normal sort of test road route. I mean, it's not going to be a really quick ride, obviously. This is a 650cc single, putting out, I think it's 45 horsepower and 55 newton meters of torque. But the great thing about this bike is it only costs £5,000. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to try this. This is the first ride. I've just ridden it here for a couple of miles and I'm looking forward to seeing what she can do. So if you're interested in the new BSA Gold Star, and yeah, it's a really nice looking motorcycle, then set yourselves down, grab yourself a cup of tea and chop C, roll the intro. Now, first of all, I have an engine warning light on. I don't know why that's on. That wasn't on before. It's just decided to come on. I don't know what that's about, so we'll ignore that, ignoring the engine warning light on the motorcycle. The actual ride of it is very, very nice. I'm going to call it nice. I mean, this is a £5 bike. So obviously, the bean counters have been over it, to get it produced for that. This used to be 5,500, but BSA have got a bit of a deal on at the moment and they're knocking some money off. They're also chucking in 2 years additional warranty, so this bike comes with 4 years warranty now as well. So it's always a bit worrying, isn't it, when a manufacturer starts discounting and chucking things in to shift units. So I don't know if BSA are sort of struggling to shift these a little bit. The price drop and the extra warranty would suggest that they are, which I think is a real shame. Obviously this is similar, I guess, to your Royal Enfields, that sort of price bracket, and I think this is very similarly priced to the Interceptor. Of course, the Royal Enfield Interceptor is a twin. This is a single. This is a 4-valve per cylinder overhead cam single, so it is sort of almost a bit of a modern single, my Super Adventure. But it's not like an early single. It's got 4 valves per cylinder anyway, an overhead camshaft. You know what I mean? It's got a bit of modern tech, and actually, it doesn't really feel like a big single. As I say, I think it's 652cc, 45 horsepower, and 55 newton meters. And what sort of really surprised me is I think I was expecting, a cheap bike, big single. I was expecting a lot of vibrations, typical sort of big single sort of downfalls, but actually this is incredibly smooth for a big single. There's less vibrations than on my KTM 690 SMCR, which is also, again, another sort of 650cc single, but this actually feels a bit smoother than the SMCR. And you got open the throttle, you got bags of that torque, that 55 newton meters. I mean, I'm not going to try and tell you this is really fast. Obviously, it's not a fast bike. It's not for being thrown around the twisties and forgetting your buzz getting your thrills. It's not about that, obviously. This is a bit of a potterer, you know. And when I rode the Norton Commando, and I can tell you straight away, that bike was more sporty feeling, you know. That had Olin suspension. I mean, that was, I think, a £17,000 retro, that Norton, you know, and had a really lovely attention to detail. It was in a totally different class to this bike, you know. But what I want to see is, how does this handle? We'll push it on a little bit. I think the best way to sort of uncover a bike's flaws, you know, its handling flaws, is actually to give it a bit of stick and try and chuck it around and see how much it fights you. So we will do a little bit of that, but obviously being very careful, because it's only about 4 degrees today. The bike doesn't have any traction control, none of that. It's very basic. It has ABS, of course, but only on the front wheel. It's got no rear ABS, so it's absolutely bare bones electronics, into, you know, all of that stuff, which I think is absolutely fine. Keep the price down, strip away all that stuff. You don't need traction control on this sort of bike, you know. ABS up front, perfect. Can we lock the back up? It's got rear ABS. It has got rear ABS. It is a bit, obviously I'm 20 stone, so I'm completely overwhelming this rear suspension. The front feels pretty nice, but it's got a bit of wallow in it, you know. The rear sort of bouncing me round the corners. You know, I could probably, the rear suspension is adjustable with preload, you know, the preload collar. So if I had a toolkit, I don't know if I have or not, but I could try and put a little bit more preload into the rear springs. But I know it's not going to be enough to really transform the bike, you know. And it's not about that, is it? But as I said, you can identify, you know, elements where bikes can be improved by pushing them on a little bit. Power wise, things run out about 6,000 RPM. The actual clocks do go around to 10,000 RPM. I think that's a little bit optimistic. But you're going to be able to rev it to 10k. I think maximum power is around 6,000. So, you know, that's when you're looking at changing gear. But, you know, there's loads of drive. There's no gear indicator, of course. You know, there's no quick shifter. There's none of that stuff. But the actual gearbox, clutch, throttle connection feels nice, you know. It's got a nice throttle response. It feels quite eager, you know, as you open it up, even in a high gear. But it feels nice, you know. There's nothing annoying. There's nothing annoying here to sort of interfere with your riding pleasure. Let's put it that way. So BSA is, of course, you know, an iconic British brand that's been brought back, you know, like Royal Enfield was, like Norton's been as well, of course, I guess you could say, even though Norton has been around a long. I think it's been, BSA were running for like 65 years of production. You know, starting in the 1800s, you know, initially making guns, and then sort of moving into motorcycles sort of before the First World War, really. I can't remember the exact dates. If you want to know, it's all on the BSA website. But they started off making weapons, munitions, obviously vehicles during both the wars, you know. So you know, they supplied a lot of motorcycles, you know, to the front line in World War II. And then I think things just got a little bit out of hand in sort of the 50s and 60s, lack of development, lack of investment, you know. And they bought Triumph, you know, as I said at the beginning, you know, at that time in the 50s and 60s, you know, 1 in 4 motorcycles was a BSA, and that's globally, not just in the UK. They were huge. And then of course they lost everything. So it is possible to lose everything, you know. I guess maybe a bit of a warning for the likes of KTM and, you know, in going into administration. You know, it does happen that these bike manufacturers, even the well-established market leaders, can go under. You know, nothing is given. But BSA was bought by the Merinda Group, I think via another group, but basically, you know, Indian owned, and they thought they'd bring it back. And I have to say, I'm very pleased they did, because I really like the look and style of this bike. I'll tell you what, let's have a quick walk around. BSA, British Small Arms Company, does it stand for? The overall look of the bike is very much like the original Gold Star 650. I'll pop a picture on the screen so you can see. That's an original. This is obviously the latest version. The main difference is of course, the new one is water cooled. So there is a radiator on the front. The original was only air-cooled. The engine looks like it could still be air-cooled, doesn't it? It's still got all the fins, you know, obviously they're more for show than actually doing anything. But it very much looks like the original engine. The finish on the engine is all like a powder-coated finish. Again, you've got the little rifle logos there. You know, it all looks nice. It's all powder-coated. I like the exhaust, a nice beefy sort of header coming down the back here, and it's got some little baffles in the back which are actually removable. But things like sort of frame welds, you know, all looks pretty reasonable, really. You know, for a £5,000 motorcycle. You know, I'm not seeing anything which is shouting out at me. You know, oh, stay clear, it's horrible. And you've got the lovely sort of chrome. Oh, it's my ball. Hello, Slaphead. You've got that lovely chrome sort of insert on the tank and the BSA logo there. I really like that. Other little details, you've got similar logos on the fuel cap. BSA embossed into the seat. I don't know if that's real leather. It feels like leather. It's obviously got some stitching on it as well. And other nice little details is the logos on the headlight and stuff. Halogen bulb, so keeping original. And I think even the indicators, these are actually non-LEDs, so these are also conventional bulbs, but I like the size of the indicators. Look, really nice small indicators, not huge things. The forks are telescopic units like the original, and all this sort of mudguard bracing with the chrome, you know, that is all again very much like the original, and that is actually metal, not plastic. And we've even got some Brembo caliper up front and braided lines. I'm liking the speed lines, the speed detailing down the whole centre of the bike, sort of running down the tank, and the tank finish is again, you know, very nice, and a little chrome bit on the inside here as well, and the logo on the left. There's the engine. You've even got 12-volt USB charger back here, and then up on the handlebars you've got another USB. You've got a USB charger and a USB-C port as well. So you've got connectivity and charging. You don't see many premium bikes with 2 power outlets on, do you? So yeah, nice little features that for your little classic retro. Right, let's jump back on. The riding position on the bike, you know, it's very much sit up and beg. You know, quite a very low seat height, I'm going to say. You know, your ankles are in front of your hips. It's a bit like you're sat at the kitchen table, you know. It's very comfortable. The seat seems to be well padded as well. Seems to be quite a bit of support with the seat. And then of course you've got the bars are really high and right in front of you. You know, absolutely perfectly comfortable thing to ride this. A pleasure, I would say. A pleasure to be seated upon. Right, let's give it a little bit of a throw around here, just to see how she does handle when you push it a little bit. Like I said, there's quite a bit of drive. I think it weighs all about 200 kilos, you know, so there is a bit of weight here, but as I say, everything's quite low, and you can actually sling it about. You can actually sling it about and have a bit of fun on this, you know. And actually, you know, there's a lot to be said, as they say, you know, for riding a slow bike fast. There is pleasure in that, and it's the same for this. You can throw it around a little bit, and yeah, it's good fun. The brakes are really powerful, actually. You've got a single disc up front, Brembo caliper. That is actually quite happy with that. Quite happy with the performance of that front brake. And there's actually quite a nice bit of bite. It doesn't feel wooden. There's quite a nice feel at the lever, actually. A nice bit of bite to it, quite progressive. That's nice. Yeah, front brake's nice. Just try the rear. Yeah, same on the rear, really quite powerful. One thing I am finding is the brake pedal is sort of quite close to my big boot. I've got size 12 boots, and you know, it seems quite high, the rear brake lever. When I first got on it, I thought that. Now I'm sort of getting used to it a bit. It's not so much of a problem. Oh dear, hang on. I can't take this out and just thrash it around, can I? Oh, let's slow it all down. Let's enjoy the ride. I think the biggest surprise with this bike is that engine. I wasn't expecting it to feel as refined as it does. You know, I was expecting a lot more vibes, you know, perhaps vibes which will become intrusive. I think as you rev it, it gets a bit more vibey as you rev it, but just sort of normal riding, 3,000 revs. I don't know what gear I'm in. Let's put it in top gear. It's only got 5 gears. That's top gear, 2,000 revs. Even 2,000 revs onwards, it's not shaking my teeth out, you know. It's pulling that. The switch gear seems okay. I mean, it seems a little bit cheap, but hey, it's a £5 bike. You know, I can forgive that. You can forgive that when a motorcycle is reasonably priced. Yeah, it does vibe up a bit as you get it up to around sort of 6,000 revs. I'm going to take it really easy around here because it's wet, it's cold. These tyres are a bit of an unknown as well. They look like they're from the 1950s. It handles well enough, you know. You don't come to a corner and then think, shit, I can't stop, we're going into the hedge. It leans over, it corners, handles absolutely perfectly. There's no hidden sort of worries there, you know. There's no hidden inherent issues with the handling. It's nice. You can throw it around there. Ooh, yes. Yeehaw. It's a very comfortable place to be. The grips actually feel really wide, really thick. I don't think it's just the gloves. They feel really quite thick and substantial, which I sort of like that feeling. The mirrors are okay. I'm struggling to see past my shoulders a little bit. I don't know if they're just not quite at the right angle where it came out the van. They're not great, the mirrors. I think a nice little bar end would probably look quite nice on it, wouldn't it? But, you know, £5,000. You got yourself a classic looking BSA. I did a little bit of research and there seems to be quite a lot of people, you know, moaning about this bike, and dealers won't part exit back in. It's a little bit of an unknown, I suppose, for some dealers. You know, and people complaining that they want to part exit for a different bike and dealers don't want to know, they don't want to touch it, which is a shame, isn't it? And I don't know how true that is. That's just a bit of research I did on the old Tinternet, but that seemed to be coming up quite a bit. You know, people also saying they had a few problems, but when this come out in 21, so they've had a few years to iron out issues on this bike. He says, riding it with an engine warning light on. It's one of those things, isn't it? £5,000, you pay your money, you take your chances, but from what I can tell you from an initial first ride, it rides absolutely perfectly. I'll just get off it again. Kickstand. It does lean over quite a lot on the side stand. Yeah, nothing wrong with that, but it does have a bit of a lean to it. The exhaust does have also a removable baffle as well, so it's actually got a baffle in it. It's actually riveted. I think it's riveted in. One of the few tiny little not issues, but things I've noticed is put it into gear and the gear lever still moves a lot. I mean, it's already in first, so it's got this sort of extra movement. It's really easy to find neutral, but you know, sometimes when you're trying to get neutral and you're like, come on, go down through the box, it's stuck. It's not. That is actually first. Come on, we've got to do it, haven't we? Let's give it a bit of welly. Yeah, we're shifting. There you go, 60-ish. 0 to 60, pretty reasonable, isn't it? Even with a 20-stone fatty on. Even at sort of faster speed, 60 miles an hour. What's it doing? 4,000 revs? So I mean, it will cruise on the motorway, no bother at all. That's 4,000 at 60. There you go, that's 60 at 4,000 revs. So reasonable, you know, you can probably cruise at 70 on it, no problem. I do find the sort of the rear of the bike feels quite low. It's probably where I'm squishing the suspension under my weight. It feels like the back could do with being up, a bit more support. And again, that's what you know, the rear shocks are probably very budget units, you know. So changing the rear shocks to something a little bit better, I think, would actually probably transform the handling a little bit, but it's okay. I mean, it gets a bit wallowy, it gets a bit bouncy. You've got decent progressive brakes. It turns in nice, the front end feels nice. So, you know, you can chuck it around and have a bit of fun on this. Nothing's jumping out of me as saying, oh, that's not very good, I'd improve that, I'd improve. It's all there, it all works well. My rider engagement, rider enjoyment is very much there on this. Would it be better if it was a twin? You know, singles always have a bit of a budget sort of feel to them, don't they? Would it be better if it was a twin? Possibly. I don't think it rides like a single though. Don't let the fact that it's a single put you off, because actually it doesn't ride like it's a single at all. It's quite surprising what they've managed to do with the vibes and stuff, and it doesn't really feel like a big single. So don't think, you know, if you've ridden a Spitfire, you know, some of those other sort of classics with a big single, or you've tried big single KTMs and didn't like that sort of feel and vibes, give it a test ride. I think you'll be impressed with how this engine actually feels. You know, there's a tiny little bit of vibration through the bike. No, not much. You know, maybe what you would expect from a parallel twin. It's not too bad at all. So there we go, a very quick look at the BSA Gold Star. I thought I'd feature it just because I'd done a bit with Norton, and I'm probably going to reach out to Royal Enfield as well and see if they'd be willing to lend me some of their machines, because, you know, I'm finding it very appealing, this sort of bike. You know, just a sort of bike you could jump on and just enjoy the ride without going too fast. You know, and if you do want to go fast, you can still, a big twig in the road, you can still have a bit of fun on it, but you know, you're not breaking the law. I mean, you struggle to get over 60 really on a twisty back road, you know, so you're not breaking the speed limit. You haven't got to worry about losing your license. You know, just riding that new Panigale last week, the 216 horsepower, all of that torque, you know, all of that MotoGP technology on that bike, and I'm not sure I could keep my license if I owned something like that, you know. And this is just lovely not to have to worry about your license and speeding and all of that, you know. So I do very much get the appeal with this sort of bike. Hey, even that's really bad bumps back there, suspension, it handles it, you know. It seems relatively plush. So yeah, all in all, I think this little BSA Gold Star, I think they're onto a bit of a winner here, and I hope they do well. You know, I know I've said, you know, they've discounted them, they're chucking additional warranty in. There's reports of people not being able to part X them because dealers don't want to touch them second hand, which is a shame, isn't it? But I do wish them all the success. And what I may do, actually, if I do get Royal Enfield to respond to me, perhaps we'll do a comparison with the BSA versus the Interceptor, or they also do a single, don't they, on the Royal Enfields do a single, a 350. I think it's only a 350 single though, and they got that engine in various different models. But maybe we'll do a bit of a retro comparison. That could be something a little bit new for the channel. I know Greg also does like this sort of laid back type riding, so I'm sure he'll be up for having a go on this as well. So if that's something you'd want to see, let me know in the comments. If it's something you're really not interested in at all, then also let me know. But it's an area of motorcycling I've not dabbled in much, you know, and obviously it's a massive, there's a lot of popularity with these sorts of bikes globally. So yeah, I think it's definitely something I need to start looking at, really, from a channel point of view. But and again, also, I'm getting older, I'm 53, I can appreciate this type of machine. So if you're interested in that, let me know. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this little spin around the winter countryside on the BSA Gold Star. Thanks for watching, guys.